If you want to have like a really chill environment, right? Maybe having people who are key people in the community, maybe it's not best to have like those key people as people that are like every game we have to win or else I'm gonna rage and throw my keyboard, right? And then it makes people feel unsafe and they don't want to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Find the right seeds, the right plants for the community that you have. All right. What is up? Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be running this cute little fun, hopefully interactive workshop on community building. We're going to talk about community building. And if my lighting looks weird, it's because I'm at my office. I just got done with my workday and I'm here to present to y'all. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's jump right in because I want to try to make sure we have like time to like answer questions and have a discussion hopefully as we go, because I think that's really what's like super duper important about all this and what I enjoy um, doing and talking about when it comes to communities, which is just like getting to know people, really bottom line. So we'll just start with some like basic stuff first, right? So like, who am I? And why am I talking to you guys? So, like, really quick off of that, I'm a dad. I'm a dad of two. I grew up in New Jersey. I went to college in Boston. I got a master's degree in South Korea, and then I moved back here to Chicago to start working in like UX UI design. Go figure, right? And in my free time, I've been playing a lot of video games because after you put your kids back to sleep at like 4 a.m. and you can't go back to sleep, what are you going to do? You're going to play video games, right? And I also, because I've never lived in Chicago before, I was like thinking to myself, like, I need some people I can game with. I need some people that I can play with. Like, I used to be a fencer and I missed competing and stuff. And so, to make a long story super duper short, I ended up kind of starting a number of small communities between Chicago Overwatch, between Kaiju Core, which is I guess my main one, and then sort of just a personal private one that kind of grew. And I suppose like over the last almost going on 5 years now, I've been overseeing communities of like 100 to 200, maybe at max like 300 people, and I would still kind of consider that like relatively small. And so basically, what ended up happening is a few months ago, someone was like, "Hey, like you should come speak at this event," and I'm sitting there like, "What would I even speak about? Like, I'd love to be there. I'd love to be here speaking." And so finally, I was like, "You know what? I'm just going to talk about communities." Because I've been doing that sort of as a passion project, really for the last 4 or 5 years. So, all that said, and we can answer more questions and talk about stories later. What does gardening have to do with communities? And I know there's some people in like our platform here in chat. Why don't we like can we like throw out like a few just quick ideas? Like why use gardening metaphors? Other than the fact that I genuinely love gardening metaphors, but like what does gardening actually have to do with starting, building, and maintaining communities? Anyway, I'll give us like 5 seconds, 10 seconds to like respond in chat. Gardening requires constant attention. Ooh, that's a really interesting point. I would half agree with that, but you'll see why I'm only going to half agree with that. Anybody else? I know we have a handful of people here. I want to make sure we get this like conversation going. Have to put in the work to get something out of it. Ooh, yes, 100%, 100%. But we're also going to talk about what is the right amount of work, right? What is the right amount of work? Okay. So at a high level, and a lot of this is going to be really high level because my hope for you guys that are watching, whether you're on Twitch or you're on the platform, my hope for you guys is that you can like I'm hoping that it will literally plant seeds into your brain to grow fruit in you so you can bring that to the communities you are managing. The planting and growing, what have you planted? Yes, I would agree with that. So let's talk about this really quick. Gardens and communities both need space. They can grow, and yes, they require care, right? And if you're thinking like, oh, like that's really broad, yeah, of course, duh. There is different levels of attention that different plants need, right? Some plants, and I have a little mini garden here. Maybe I'll bring a plant over. Some plants need to be watered like, daily, right? Some plants need to be watered like once a week. Some plants need to be, like succulents. Those are super easy, right? You don't need to be like on it 24/7. But I digress. Let's keep going here. At its core, okay, if you're like just got out of class, you're tired as heck, and you're like, like, why am I here? If there's one thing you can remember from today, okay, this is it. Okay, community management is crafting spaces and placing people / plants where they can flourish. Okay, that's really what community management comes down to. What is the space that you're making and the people that you are bringing into that space? So let's move on here. And don't worry, we're going to get a little interactive as we go. I like that. I like the interaction. Every plant, okay, every plant needs different exposure to the sun. This is something I'm learning. Okay, some plants are not good in like 24/7 sun, right? Some plants need different amounts of water, and every plant has its own season. Okay, we're going to talk about seasons a little bit more later, but this is where I want you guys to start to maybe get into gear with certain things, right? I want you guys to start getting into gear with thinking about the communities that either you're a part of or that you manage, and start thinking to yourself, what is the amount of effort I need to be putting into different areas in my community, in my garden? You guys feeling me? You guys following me? So let's talk about like starting your garden, right? For those of you that, and this is again, still going to apply to people that are already in communities or already managing communities, okay? But let's talk about what are some of the key things that you're going to need if you garden, right? I shouldn't have done this. Don't look. We're going back. What are some things you need when you want to start a garden? Let's do it real simple. You guys answer this while I bring over a plant, so we can use this as a metaphor here. Shabam. Shabam. Like a pot. Ooh, foundation to rest your plants. Yes, like a pot. I actually, we're in for it. Like a pot. Yeah, I agree. Space, right? You need the right space for people to grow, right? If plants don't have enough space, they get suffocated, right? This guy, when I bought this guy, it was like this big. It was like this big. Just little by little, day after day, like this is how big it's gotten. You guys feel me? Right? When I started, when Chicago Overwatch was like first starting off, there were like 40 people. Right? And I think we ended up filling up lands with 16 teams, 16 Overwatch teams, like full venues and stuff like that. So let's go on. You need seeds, you need water, soil, and sun, and you're hopefully going to get fruit out of it, right? There's going to be some sort of an end goal. There's going to be some sort of an end goal here, okay? And what I mean by this is you need people in a community. You can't have a community without people. If I'm standing here in my office by myself, I can't be like, yes, this is my community. Doesn't make any sense, right? You need people. You need engagement. There's a big asterisk here, okay? A community without, let's say, action, without care, without like the appropriate involvement, stagnates, You get weeds a lot of times. You guys are like, oh, like dead Discord server, right? We've seen that happen, right? You need some form of engagement to kind of keep it going. A lot of it can be organic. For the record, you can have organic engagement. Yeah, what are you doing tonight, man? You just want a game? That's engagement, right? And the last thing you need is vision. Okay, you need to have a vision for where your community is going to end up and what is valuable to the community, right? What is valuable to your community? What is the fruit that you want to have? What is the fruit you want to have your community bear? How do you want it to flower, right? And that's kind of where I guess I want to start diving in a little bit deeper. And I want you guys to start thinking about for yourselves, okay? If you have a piece of paper, get out a pen, pencil, start writing this down. Think about for yourselves, okay? What are the fruit that I want to have come out of my community, right? Let's say you're a collegiate esports organization. Do you guys want to be the best collegiate team, in the States, right? Do you guys want to be like known for like winning, Hugh Fest or whatever, right? Or do you guys want to be known as like a really cool club? Yes. Or do you guys want to be known for like being a really cool club on campus that like everyone feels welcome to, right? You have to have this vision of fruit, right? And say to yourself, what do I want to see as the outcome of this, right? Okay. And sometimes it can be as tangible as results, and other times it can be as, I don't want to know. I don't want to say like I don't want to use the word abstract, but it can just be the experiences that you have, right? And so you need to have this vision of what fruit do I want to have at the end of all of this. Okay? So think about this, right? Write this down for yourselves. What are some of the fruit you want to have come out of your garden? Okay, next up, seeds. I'm going to talk about seeds for a second here. Because, like we said, with any community, you need to have people in it. You need to have people. No people, no community. One more time, no people, no community. And you want to have people that, like, let's say you have the vision, right? You say, I want like 10 buckets of apples by next fall. You're not going to get that by planting peach trees. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to have a top performing team if you bring in people that are like, yeah, I'm just here to kick it. I mean, maybe, right? Okay, I know there's like there's intricacies there, but generally speaking, right, you're not going to have a top performing team that doesn't put in the work, right? Mixed crossing metaphors. But again, like if you want to have like a really chill environment, right? Maybe having people who are key people in the community, maybe it's not best to have like those key people as people that are like, every game we have to win or else I'm gonna rage and throw my keyboard, right? And then it makes people feel unsafe and then they don't want to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Find the right seeds, the right plants for the community that you have. Are you the bearer of your own community? Like, do you need to reflect what you want out of your community? Oh, yes. Good. Thank you. Good question. Good question. So here's the thing, right? Is if you're a manager, and I think we're going to probably touch on this when we talk about weeds, right? You certainly play a part in what happens, right? Like if I'm the manager of a community, right? I don't want to jump ahead too much, but like, let's say some dude comes in, like shows up at an event and he's just like making a fuss, like, he's harassing people, right? And then like it starts to get sour. The fruit starts to get sour. You know what I'm saying, right? The experience of people at this event is going downhill. And if I just let that happen and I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it, right? It's going to affect what happens there, right? I'm TOing a land tomorrow, right? And this is something I always, and thank God this has never happened. And if you're coming to the land tomorrow, don't cause me any headaches. I'm gonna fight you. But if I were to let that happen, would I be a good gardener? right? And the balance you want to ultimately have, I think, to answer your question is, I'm going to do what I can to make the best space to engage in a way that is meaningful and helpful. And I'm going to hope that the fruit comes out because, and we're going to talk about this later, is as much love as I've been giving this guy, literally just today, one of the leaves down here wilted and fell off. It was very sad for me. I'm not going to lie. Very sad. But sometimes that happens, right? And the thing is because we're managing people and we're not managing robots, right? We can't input an action and get a direct output, right? Because we are managing people, we always have to understand that the outcome and the fruit that comes out of the harvest may not directly come from the vision that we're having, right? The vision that you have for your community can't be rigid. It cannot. Because you are dealing with people, you're dealing with living things, human beings, right? So, again, I know I'm talking a lot, but the balance you want to have here is I'm going to do my best to manage what I can to water, to put them in the sun, and I'm going to hope that the fruit comes out. But if it doesn't, at least I know that I've done my part, right? You got to balance those two. Does that answer your question? And if it doesn't, I'm sorry. Hopefully, we'll get to it later on down the road. Yes? Cool beans. Okay. Next, let's talk about water, soil, and sun. And what I mean by this is how are we engaging people? Okay. Luckily, in Kaiju Core, over the last like couple months, we've literally we do weekly pugs on Saturdays. We play Overwatch. We've had like 30 people show up for like 2 months in a row. I don't know how it got to that point, but like given the state of the game of Overwatch, I'm surprised. I'm very happy about it. We didn't do much, right? All we said was, yeah, we're gonna have pugs on Saturday. Just show up if you want to play. And it's literally gotten to the point where like 2 months in a row, we have like 30 people show up every Saturday to play. Like bizarre to me, but also really cool. Don't stop. But what I mean by this is, how are you gonna start to engage the community, right? My experience with, say, Chicago Overwatch, right? We've put on 16 team LANs. We try to do a 8-team like quote unquote academic LAN once a year, hoping for twice a year now. We used to do a like mini league and so on and so forth. And with all of that, all we've really tried to do is meet the needs of the plants in our garden, meet the needs of the people in our community, right? Are there people that want to have more casual events and meetups? Do they just want to grab a beer and play games with each other? Right? Do we want to have Overwatch League watch parties? Do we want to have more competitive events for the competitive people in the Chicagoland area? Right? As you get to know the people in your community, and if you're genuinely taking the time to get to know them, you're going to learn over time, how do I engage with this? How do I engage with these people? Right? How do I give them what is going to help them flourish and enjoy their time here? And if it's really far like out of the way of like, I don't know, let's say like someone's expecting something unreasonable, you have to say no. Sorry, man. That's not my armor. That's not really in my garden. But you have to sort of begin to see like, where do you want to invest your time, in which group of people. And to some degree, you have to, and we're going to talk about weeding later because that's always a tough topic, and I have many stories about that. Um, but you want to begin to figure out who the people are in your community and what you can do to engage them. Okay, so let's start with this really quick. I want everyone to, if you've been writing down, essentially like community nights that some streamers have in their Discord server. Yeah, that's true. That's one way to engage with your community, right? And community engagement can look very different, especially with the size of your community, right? It's very easy for me, let's say, to engage with a small core member, like core members of Kaiju Core, for example, right? It's easy for me to do that if it's much smaller, but like if I'm a much bigger streamer for example, or if I'm managing like a collegiate esports community that is like, like 700, 800 people strong, you have to figure out like what are different ways that I can engage with them and still show some face, right? Is it having a town hall where I kind of talk about stuff, talk about what's happening in the community? Is it having a game night just so we can connect and stuff like that, right? Those are things you want to kind of keep in mind there. Okay. So let's do this. Let's take like 2 minutes. And if you guys have been doing this for yourselves, I want you guys to think about who are your seeds, right? Who are the people in your community or the people that you want to have in your community? How are you going to engage with them? And what hopefully is the vision that you want for it in the long term? And we'll take like 2 minutes. And you can ask questions during this time as well. Arts, are you here? I have a question for you, Arts. Speaking of plants, everyone drink water. Okay, my throat is like, it's just killing me right now. I'm here. Awesome. Do you want me to like also answer questions like from the Twitch stream, or like, is it just, am I just focusing here? Do you have a preference? I want to make sure we're all enjoying our time together. I will check that. Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate you. Okay. Whew. And actually, if you're on the platform and you're in the session with me, can you guys let me know what community you're either managing or a part of? Because I want to actually get a framework for where you guys are at, so I can hopefully like gear it towards you guys, because you guys are here talking with me on a Friday afternoon. It's really hot in my office. We have a question. So I've been trying to grow a friendly and helpful community, but I myself come off as like a ragey streamer, but I don't want to bring toxicity in my community. Thank you for being honest. I think that's look, sincerity goes a long way. It really does. And being sincere about even like not being the perfect example is really important. I like from years of experience, like I guarantee you, like the sincerity with which you approach something, the easier it is to actually have genuine connections. Okay. I'm going to start with that. Second of all, one of the things that I would say is it's like, if you're building it, let's say you're building it around your Twitch stream, right? And a majority of your Twitch streams, like content is like, oh, like my teammate's so dumb, like let's rage, haha, and like baby rages in chat and stuff like that. I think that it's gonna kind of breed some of that, right? Because the standard, this is really important, the standard that you set as someone who is in charge is going to have an effect on the people around you, right? The more yourself you are, especially as someone in a position of responsibility, and I'm specifically saying responsibility and not power, okay? It gives other people the freedom to be themselves. Okay? So what I would say is you also have to feel it out. There is no perfect answer. Some of your leaves are going to wilt. As much love as you give it, as perfectly as you try to raise it, you're going to have to feel it out a little bit. Does that answer your question? And I'm going to address the next two comments. I manage my own Twitch community, but also help with the esports community at my school. Awesome. Dude, school community in esports that's a whole like, phew, like we could, I was gonna say grab a beer, but I don't know how old you guys are. I'm old, so. But that's a big convo, because that setting is so different than like, a side community or something like that. I'm currently a co-founder and internal VP for a collegiate org in the Philippines. Awesome. Most of the things I do are planning. Planning is very important. Planning is very important because especially if you're doing event management and you are planning stuff like that, you are literally creating the touch points for your community. That's really important. Community events like tournaments, the whole university, or public collegiate tourneys. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. So let's quickly answer this while I start moving on to some of the next topics, which are, yeah, again, who are your people? How are you going to engage? What's your vision? One last question before we move on. How can you continue to nurture community when you yourself don't have a lot of time in life? Like, I'm active duty Army and in college. How do I keep business booming? I feel very interestingly qualified to answer this question as a dad of two and having a full-time job. Part of my answer to you is you need to figure out, like we said, right? Some plants need more water than others, right? Some plants need more water than others. And I think as you try to start a community, you're going to have to see what investment you can give to make it work or not, right? I just started a new job. Yay, congratulations to me. And it's been a lot tougher for me to stay personally and actively involved in Kaiju Corp. People have noticed I haven't really been around as much. I'm still trying to show up for this or that. But it's also comes down to the quality of the engagement that you have, right? If the quality of the engagement you have, even if it's small, if it's a good quality engagement, people are still going to remember that, and that's going to affect them in a positive manner, right? So the simple answer I would say is you have to know what you can do and do that and meet those needs in the way that you can. Because that's going to give you the healthiest growth for both you and your community. Don't invest something you can't give. If you don't have anything to give here, you can't pour out onto other people. This is just something I've learned over time. You can do it a little bit, but if you're running empty and you're trying to force something to happen, likely it's going to create this weird tension, this weird like this is one of the biggest things I've always said to people when it comes to growth as human beings or just community management. You cannot yell at a sprout for not bearing fruit. Okay, you guys got that? If I'm running a small community, or let's use a team example because this is important, right? If my team is a new team and I'm trying to perform well, right? I cannot have crazy expectations for it when they're still in a season of growth. You guys feel me? Okay, thank Arts. Thank you. So yeah. So I feel like I've touched on a lot of different things and hopefully answer your question. But we'll keep going and we'll keep talking. And I want to leave a lot of time for questions and answers if we can. Okay. So let's talk about managing your garden. Let's talk about managing your garden. Okay. Let's say you have a couple people, right? You have an esports community, English hard, words hard, community at your college, right? How do we continue to manage it, right? Let's say you're putting in the work, you're engaging your community, you have healthy vision and healthy expectations, things are going well, right? But sometimes things don't go well. Things don't go well. So here are two things we want to talk about when it comes to managing seasons. There are two things we want to keep in mind, okay? With weeds, the thing you need to ask yourself is how are you going to deal when weeds pop up in your garden? And additionally, with seasons, you need to learn how to discern which season your community is in, right? Sometimes for colleges, that's super easy. If you guys are in finals mode, maybe don't try to throw a 10-team tournament or something like that. Yeah, let's have a really tough tournament right in the middle of finals. I mean, that's kind of a simple thing to keep in mind, right? But you want to discern the seasons, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So let's talk about weeds. What do weeds do to a garden? It's pretty simple, right? What do weeds do to a garden? Let's get some chat involvement. Pretty simple stuff, right? What do weeds do to a garden? How do weeds grow? Ruin the integrity. Ooh, yes. I love that phrasing. They ruin the integrity of the garden. Weeds also steal water. They take all the nutrients of other plants. Yes. Ooh, they choke nearby plants, right? Um, this is something tough to talk about from time to time. I set my Google Calendar alert wrong. It just told me I need to start my presentation. We're already here. Um, this is rough because I've had to as EDAD, as some people like to call me, I've had to put my foot down on some things, and it's not always easy. It's not always fun, and I've had to ban and kick like a number of people. Um, on like some pretty crazy stuff, like long-term emotional abuse that was like completely flying under the radar. Hacking in a charity tournament. That one's a pretty that's an easy one to rip out. You know what I mean? Like come on, man. Get out of here. Um you know, like other kind of like not so nice stories, like boosting, stuff like that. There was a dude that was a booster, and we confronted him, and he was like, my dad said if you're good at something, don't do it for free. And I'm like, yeah, but no, get out of here, right? Um, so all to say is that when you identify things that could be problematic, you need to know the steps that you are going to take in case that happens. Okay. There was a college, I don't want to give away too many details, but there was a college that was dealing with, let's just say, problematic people. They had been bullying people. They had been, um, so much that people had left the community, and like they were like, I'm never going to play Overwatch again because you've made it such a terrible time for me. Um, and I have some friends at this college who were like, hey, like, what should we do? And I was like, what do you think you should do? You got to get those people out of there, right? If that's not the vision you have for your garden, like, and again, if you have a garden that is like, you know, where you want people like that, I mean, go ahead, question mark. But at the same time, like, it's no way to run a garden. If you want to have a garden of weeds, that's your prerogative. But I told them, I was like, you just got to get them out of there. If you know that they're ruining the experience of other people, if you know that they are literally souring the water and souring the fruit of your community, you got to get them out, right? Whether it's talking to a faculty advisor, whether it's taking the steps yourself as the head of something to say, hey, you don't fit in line with what's going on here, to a point where it's affecting other people, you got to know how you're going to take a stand for that. Okay. Sometimes it can be as easy as like, hey, you got to go, you're causing trouble. Other times it might take a lot of conversations with like people around you, staff around you, and stuff like that. Um, cool. Let's talk about seasons really quick, because this I think is going to also come into play with some of what you guys were saying. Buh, 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 buh. We can't force sprouts to give us fruit, right? I can't like, I have this succulent that I've been growing. I revived it. Okay. This guy was dead a long time ago, but I got to revive it. It's cute. Mama llama. It was dead, and I got to revive it somehow by the grace of God. Um, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get any apples from this, if you know what I'm saying, right? Like, you have to know when it's time for things to be in season, right? And part of that really just comes from growing in discernment and relationship of the people in your community, right? If you know how they are, if you know how they're doing, then you'll know, hey, what is it a season for? What is it not a season for, right? For instance, some of the coaches in Kaiju Corp, a lot of like IRL stuff has been happening to some of our in-house coaches. And so I literally was like, we're taking a break. You guys, like, we're not gonna have any activities that are growth focused or coaching focused or competitive focused. We're literally gonna take a break, and we're just gonna spend time with each other. Because what you need right now is not more competition, more work to do. What you need right now is people around you to support you and let you know that you are valid, right? You need to understand the seasons that your community and the members of your community are in. Okay. It's like, if anything, this is probably one of the most important points of all of this, right? Because a lot of community building can be organic. It can be really organic, right? I'm so lucky that the growth that I've had in both Chicago Overwatch and Kaiju has genuinely been really organic. We put out events, we make friends, we tell them, hey, come join us in the cool stuff that we're doing. It's been really organic, right? And I'm really lucky for that. Um, but it's also because we've been lucky to discern things, and we've been like, yo, take a break, right? um there's this kid that I've been coaching at a local high school, not local, um and I had a long talk with him, and I was like, hey, do you want to come back and play this season? Because I feel like you're really hard on yourself, you're not having a good time. I really want you to think about it. We had a long talk, and eventually he was like, yeah, I think I want to take a break from the team. And as much as it sucks for this kid to not be playing, and as much as I miss coaching him, I know that it's the healthiest thing for him as a human being to take a break. Okay, so with this now, with your own communities, right? I know you guys have a Twitch community, there's an esports community at your school, collegiate org in the Philippines, your own community. I want you to also think about how are you gonna, what are you gonna do when weeds come, and how are you gonna manage your own expectations, right? And I really want you guys to just know the answer for yourself, right? If you're running a collegiate org, maybe you have to involve other people around you. If you're running something that is a lot smaller scale, like a personal Twitch community, maybe you just have to take it really slow and take it like one step at a time. Um, you know, um, so yeah, keep these answers, sit on these answers for yourself, and we'll kind of start to get into the last section, which is good because I want to leave a lot of time for question and answer. Take a break, regroup, and review. Ooh, good. Love it. Love it. Love it. There's, how do I want to say this? There's a time for sowing and there's a time for reaping, always, right? If I did have to simplify what we just talked about, there's a time to sow in, there's a time to work hard, right? Engage with your community, provide awesome events, invest in the lives of the people around you. And there's time to reap, to enjoy that, to enjoy what you've been putting into the community. And there's a time for rest. It is so important to rest, right? I know someone asked a question much earlier, like, like gardening requires constant attention. The way that you give attention to your plants and your garden can look very different. I check I check on these guys every day. I walk into my office, they're right by the door, stairs technically. And I just check on them. I just say, hey, you guys doing okay? The soil looks good. Leaves are mostly green. You're getting taller. Good. Good. Right? But that doesn't mean I need to engage at every moment, at every time, right? Because I don't want to overwater this guy. If I overwater him, he's gonna get droopy. I learned this the hard way. I was like, oh my god, like I gotta give it water every day, and like all literally the leaves got yellow, and we're like, like in like cartoons, like Scooby Doo style, just. So yes, be aware of what's going on, but that doesn't mean that you need to constantly be engaging. Rest is important. Okay, let's move on to this sort of last section before we start talking about more Q&A and story time and yada, yada, yada. Some truths to keep in mind. I know I've been touching on some of these as we've been going along. But here's some really important things, right? We don't control the weather. Whatever that looks like, right? We have days that are sunny, we have days that are rainy, and I mean that in a very like communal sense. To I've had some members of our community lose family members during the pandemic, right? We don't control the weather. And I think one of the most important things when it comes to just dealing with people um, and being there for others is really rolling with the punches. What can I do, in the midst of rainy days to be a pillar of support for people? Can I even afford to do that? Right? We don't control the weather. Some days, bad days, some days, good days. You have to roll with the punches. It's so important as a person in charge of other people or responsible for other people that you are able to roll with those punches. Everyone is all are both plants and gardeners. I know someone just said take a break, regroup, and review. Oh, I didn't see the last part where you fell out with each other. Yes. Um, I know I said this earlier, but you can't give what you don't have, right? If I want to give love to the people in my community, but I'm running on empty, right? I can't, right? And what I think is important for you guys to know too, as people in this chat who are trying to run your own communities, it's make sure you have people that are also taking care of you, and allow yourself, this is key, allow yourself to have people take care of you. It's so important, right? Because as much as we're responsible for the communities that we manage and the people that are under us, we are also people too, right? The fruit that you're going to bear, the seasons that you're going to go through, whether it's rainy days, sunny days, right? Have people around you that are going to support you in that endeavor. It is so important to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and you're allowing other people to help play in that part. Okay. And now that's from the top, right? But here, last biggest truth, which is kind of like, this is kind of like my personal life motto. Over many years of thinking and all that stuff, is the grass is greener where we take care of it. Okay. As much as I may be responsible for what happens, or certain things that happen in my community, like we said, we're not robots, right? We're not robots. And the people that I manage are not robots. Everybody in a community is responsible for what happens in that community, right? Even if someone, let's say someone really nasty just shows up once a week at like your local smash night, and he's just a nasty dude, it's going to color things, right? Even if he only comes in once in a while, right? But let's say, think about the dudes that come in, that are active, that talk to people, that make jokes, that really make your community a really awesome place to be. This is exactly what's happening, right? They are putting in like positivity. They're putting in something that is worth it to the community. And I want everyone here to understand that even if you're a part of a community, you can help make the grass greener. You guys feel what I'm saying? Everybody is part of the community, right? We've been talking about management, but at the end of the day, we're all people. You just have a responsibility to make space, engage with people, right? But everyone shares in that communal responsibility for taking care of the grass. We want the grass to be greener where we take care of it. Cool. We've made it to the end. Session ends at 45. It ends at 45. Oh no. Yes. Okay, we're going to move to the lounge. Is this the DMs that I've been receiving? Okay, we're going to wrap this up real quick. Okay. We're going to move. So if you're in here in the platform, we're going to move to the people in business lounge so we can talk questions and have story time. But yeah,